And welcome to today's video. Today I'm talking about my House of Colour style analysis. I have so much to say, but before we get started, hi, my name is Sabrina. I create largely beauty and fashion content here on YouTube, so if that's something that you typically like to watch, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. But today we're talking about my style analysis with House of Colour. For those of you that have been here for a few months, you may have seen that I had a colour analysis at the beginning of June. I will link that video down below. I loved having a colour analysis. I am going to go as far as to say that it was somewhat life-changing, which I know sounds like such hyperbole. I think it's made my life that little bit easier. I have taken so much of what I learned in that session on board. That said, I'm not perfect. I discovered that I am in fact a winter, but yet I'm wearing gold jewellery despite silver really suiting me more. I have like a little khaki jacket, which I actually think I'm going to get rid of because it's always felt a bit off. I don't reach for it, so I have someone in mind that I think it might suit a little bit better. So I would actually really recommend having a colour analysis. I think it's about £250-ish. I had mine with Fiona in Primrose Hill. She was excellent. I would really recommend seeing her. She just seems to be a real expert. And then House of Colour kindly emailed me and asked if I would like to have a complimentary style analysis. My colour analysis was also complimentary. They kindly offered for a style analysis and I said yeah. Honestly, I've really been struggling with my style. I'm now in my 30s. I don't know, I feel like lockdown for a lot of people kind of messed us up a little bit. I think part of the issue is like from a sustainability sort of standpoint, I'm trying not to shop as much, which has kind of left me a little bit uninspired by my wardrobe. And actually I think doing this job, I have to start shopping a little bit more than I was previously. Still consciously, but just I have to actually buy something, which I think like this whole year I've really bought very, very little. I thought this was a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about my style. I was really excited. Fiona had told me briefly in our previous session about this style consultation and I was just, it piqued my interest. I chose to have my style analysis again with Fiona. I just think she was so incredible with the colour analysis and it's also my closest, so I went off to Primrose Hill to see Fiona and here are some clips from that.
What are your objectives for the day?
So I think I kind of know what shapes suit me. I think I have a good understanding of that. Whether I always wear those is a different story, but I think I do understand what suits me. So I guess I kind of want confirmation of that. Sometimes I think my style's all over the place and I like everything. So I would kind of like to, I guess, like narrow down and kind of define that a bit clearer, really.
And really, even without looking at all these words they've put here, does any word spring to you of how you would like to be perceived? Some people, oh, I want to look glamorous, I want to look elegant, I want to look pretty, I want to look fun.
I don't know if I necessarily always want to look fun, but I like there being a fun aspect to it. I'd say like somewhat put together. It doesn't have to be like formally put together. It doesn't have to be a suit, for example, but just, I guess, like polished somewhat. Like I've made an effort, I think. So I don't want to look cute. I mean, like most of these, I would say I want to look somewhat. I also want to look not necessarily like super trendy, but still on trend, if that makes sense.
And do you have any leanings towards like looking really glamorous or looking really pretty?
I don't have an issue with looking glamorous in the right setting, but I wouldn't say that is my day-to-day aspiration. I mean, youthful's a good one, I think.
So the next one is about really accessorizing. Really probably the best way with this, I'll do a little demo. So starting with what we decide to carry with us. And this is a bag I used to use loads in settings like in the city.
Okay.
Really, we talk about the shield. So that might be one example. This one is one I might use when I was going into certain other settings, maybe education or something. It still looks quite smart, I think, but it speaks differently. Can you see, if you saw me at a distance with this one, you know, there's nothing criminal about it, is it? But it's just a different impression.
Yeah.
So whatever we choose to carry with us is important. So it's something, it's good if people really think about it. Other accessories, earrings can brighten up the face. Well, jackets are really the armour, and Obviously we wear jackets far less now. I think I only actually wear them for this session.
I struggle with jackets more than anything else.
Really?
I would say I don't have a jacket I like. I have blazers that are okay, but I don't really love them. I have like jackets that are just okay. I don't have a jacket I love, and I've been looking for years, I would say.
And it's worth keeping looking to just get them, if they're really right, how, you know, structured and the right length and everything. And I'll just put on a jacket that isn't right for me. Can you see? So it just doesn't really, I feel quite frumpy in it. Doesn't make me feel good. We talk about the idea of jugular protection, and so we've got the choice. We might want a necklace or a scarf, which would add a good accessory. Wrist protection, so you might want bracelet or a watch. A belt, if belts are right for us, can pull us together. Shoes, really what people judge status, personality, attention to detail. For older people, shoes can be really aging. I will change my shoes, which have rather seen better days. And of course the makeup and the lipstick does really add the contrast. Often as people get older, they think they should get paler lipstick, but often a good strong lipstick is the best thing. So, with a lipstick, just going to add something which will get me right down to, so my nice old shapeless cardi, or it could be like a woolly pulley.
You just look like a totally different person.
And I feel different. Now I'm like, just about in proportion. Body guide, long legged. So really nice waist, really in at the waist. Do you often wear things shaped with?
Yeah.
You're really in between soft curved and full curved. Can you see where there's this gap here? It's a sign that you're curvy. So I'm going to put you as soft curved, but going to full curve. Does that make sense? Because obviously none of us are just like anything exact. We're all slightly different, but it's all about nice curviness there. Softer face shape rather than angular face shape. I was thinking oval. It's really between oval to soft square. Can you see oval slightly longer and soft squares wider, but you've got the slightly more pointy chin. And I would say average. You know, you haven't got a sharp, angular looking jaw, and neither have you got a jaw that's filled in. So a medium. Neckline's incredibly important. Look, you've got a very nice chest. You know, you're lucky, just really nice bare, and so really as open as you like. Is that what you tend to do?
Yes, in winter I do wear a higher neck, obviously, because it's cold.
Yes.
I don't really wear
polos
and no, I would never wear a polo.
Wing collars and all that. No, absolutely.
And I love a shirt, but I'd always
open it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. A soft open V. Anything drapey.
Can I wear a square neckline?
I would say a soft square.
Okay. What about sometimes I buy
not if it's too sharp.
Okay. Sometimes I buy dresses and it'll kind of just be like a straight across and then like a little spaghetti.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. In the winter you want something that's higher and keeps you cosy. Obviously not a tight polo, but a softer, wider cowl.
Yeah. So as you may have seen from the clips, I was given this little workbook, I guess, to go along with the colour analysis, which Fiona and I worked through. The whole point of this style analysis really is to kind of work out who you are on the outside and who you are on the inside, and find like a few keywords to define your style. And there are 6 words: dramatic, classic, natural, gamine, ingenue, and romantic. Now honestly, I went into there thinking I thought I knew which 2 I was. I thought I was dramatic and romantic because my hair's quite dark, my brows are quite dark, I feel like I have quite a dramatic look to me, and then romantic because my body shape is a little bit curvier and generally quite soft, I would say. Turns out you can't be those 2. You can be 2, but you can't be those 2 in particular. I think maybe because they're so extreme on either side of yin and yang. I'm gonna go through this a little bit. I can't show you too much because obviously there's like copyright issues if I show you too much inside. But throughout there are some kind of images of different women, and then they ask how you want to be perceived. You can pick a couple of words. There's a lot of words. I don't want to be perceived as cute, so I didn't circle that. I want to be perceived as polished, youthful, modern, fun, casual. And there's definitely words I just wouldn't pick. I wouldn't pick minimalist. I wouldn't pick cute. But honestly, I kind of struggled with this because, to be honest, I want to be a lot of these words, probably most of them. But for example, here you have glamorous. I don't necessarily want to be perceived as glamorous on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes I definitely do want to look a little bit glamorous. I think style is just quite hard to define, isn't it? And then we spoke about creating interest. This was so interesting. And Fiona always looks incredible. She's very true to her colours. And I guess because of her job, she's always dressed impeccably. But then she removed all her points of interest, which are things like lipstick, belts, blazers, shoes, bags. And she changed, for example, her shoes and her bags for ones that weren't quite as glamorous, and that was just so incredibly interesting. Of course we know that if we have more jewellery on, you kind of look like you made a little bit more effort, but sometimes I feel like I forget that, and so it was kind of nice to be reminded of that, I guess. We spoke a little bit about first impressions and how important they are, and then Fiona measured my body. House of Colour doesn't use the sort of 90s fruit, but we decided that I am somewhere between soft and full curved. I wasn't sure about my face shape. Honestly, I even feel like Fiona was a little bit unsure. As you can tell, I have a very, I think, unusual face shape, but she decided it's somewhere between a soft square and an oval. My jawline is medium. My neck length, I actually thought was quite long, but she said is medium. I think interesting things to know, which, to be honest, nothing really shocked me, but I'm sure for some people it would. She measured my body, my shoulder to my waist to my hip to my knee. She also measured around my bust and around my widest point. We decided that I am slightly longer legged and generally in proportion. My bust and my hips, I think, are within 2 inches of each other. So in proportion. I am quite a standard hourglass, I would say. I kind of already knew that. I'm probably ever so slightly wider on the bottom than I am on the top, but not by tons. I have a big bust, but I equally have big hips and big thighs. We then spoke about necklines that suit me, so soft and draped would suit me more than high necklines. Curved necklines suit me more. I suit more of an open neckline. Jacket wise, I can pretty much wear anything apart from a cropped jacket, and then details, any sort of details I can wear apart from hip details. Again, nothing really shocked me. Then we went on to a checklist of questions. I thought this was really interesting, and it was basically to see whether you're yin or yang. And it's about I guess creating balance within you and finding a style that is very much you. So there's questions like dark or fair. Fiona picked that one for me and she picked dark. It asks how tall you are. If you're over 5'6", that would be tall. Short would be under 5'3", and then you can pick in the middle too. But then there were some that were kind of not as cut and dry in my opinion. So for example, it asks if you are a formal or informal person. I actually think probably now more so I am quite informal. It also asks if you're tidy or untidy, and I said untidy. I think I am incredibly untidy. There is the option with this one, there's not with all of them, to go in the middle, but Fiona kind of tried to argue that maybe I am quite tidy, but I don't think I am. It's something I aspire to be, but I'm a very, very messy person. I am relatively organised, but I am untidy, so I picked untidy for that. 20 questions, I got 10 yang, 2 halves and 8 yins, but that worked out as 11 to 9, so pretty equal yin and yang. We then had to kind of go on and find within clothing personalities my yin and my yang. Now straight away I think we ruled out gamine and ingenue. I struggle with those 2 words so much, but they are totally not me. And then we also ruled out dramatic. I think it turns out I'm not really angular enough to be dramatic. So we were left with classic, natural and romantic, and because I was kind of 50-50 on the yin and yang, I was probably going to be 1 yin and 1 yang. My only yin that was left really was romantic, and the words that they use to describe romantic are over the top, glamorous, large florals, large scale, cleavage. Those probably do describe me, I think. So we pretty much was set on romantic. I think if you look at my body shape, you'd probably go for romantic anyway. So then we were stuck between classic and natural. And honestly, with classic and natural, I'm still a little bit unsure. I do think naturally I am more of a classic, but that's not necessarily what I want to be. But equally, I don't want to be a natural. And I find that because there are just 6 words, it's quite limiting. I'm just not sure if classic or natural really suit me. But equally, neither did the other words. So I really struggled with that a little bit, to be honest. I think romantic 100% totally makes sense, but classic, which is what we ended up going for, kind of does, but not really. I think my style used to be a bit classic, but it's basically not what I want my style to be. Although I want to look sophisticated, I still want to look fun, and I feel like, in my head at least, like classic takes away from that a little bit. And then the workbook kind of goes on to talk about like whether you want to capture wardrobe, how to mix your clothes, how to shop, kind of things that I generally already know. But we did talk about kind of features. So for example, large and medium scale kind of suits me a bit better. In terms of lapels, I should go for softer lapels rather than sharp lapels. Soft bags, curved bags. I actually have a really structured, very like straight, clean lined bag, which is a really beautiful bag. But weirdly, I don't think it suits me. And I think it's because it doesn't sit well with that romantic aspect of my look. Then Fiona showed me a lot of the House of Colour kind of looks that they recommend for romantics and classics, and I found that they just weren't like cool enough or like young enough for what I want. They were nice, but they just felt like a little bit dated. I kind of left a bit unsure how I would incorporate that into my wardrobe. I think I already do within a certain degree anyway, because I knew I was an hourglass-ish shape, so I always accentuate my waist whenever I can. I'm tallish, so I know that I can wear slightly longer coats, but if they don't have much structure, I know I have to kind of wear them open with a belt underneath. I feel like, to be honest, my mum taught me so much. I said the same sort of thing when it came to my colour analysis, but because my mum taught me what suited me, I feel like I didn't gain that much. There were like little tiny pockets of knowledge that I did learn that I didn't know. For example, the structured bags not really suiting me that much. I didn't know my legs were longer than my torso. That was interesting. But for me personally, I don't think it was worth the money that I would have paid had I paid for this myself. I think this cost about £450, which I just think is too much money for what I already knew. And I say this from a very privileged position. Although I'm not super skinny, I still think that being an hourglass means that my body is easy to dress for. There are, for example, whole sections on ASOS that cater to an hourglass body shape, but you don't really get that if, for example, you're really broad on top and really skinny on the bottom. Like, that's, I think, a bit harder to dress for. I know people who I think this would be really, really good for. If you're not super into fashion, I would say I have been into clothes since a very young age. My mum's into clothes. She's taught me just so much. I think this really is for someone who is struggling within their own body and wants to learn to dress for themselves and is just feeling that little bit clueless, in my opinion. I just think this wasn't right for me. I think this might be right for someone else. I didn't leave with enough new knowledge to warrant the price, basically. It was interesting, but in comparison to the colour analysis, which is much cheaper, I think like £200 cheaper, I would urge anyone to have that done unless you really, really know your colours. But I thought I knew my colours and I didn't. I think we're just so influenced by other things. Whereas with style, I don't think it's that much about style. I think it's about your body. If you're unsure what looks good on your body, then this is good for you. If you're like me and know what suits you, then I would skip this, to be completely honest. But yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope it didn't come off as too harsh, but equally very honest. I think this service is for someone, but it's just not me. I think in terms of House of Colour, I would really be interested in seeing them kind of update their looks, because I guess it's something that is quite hard to do because everything's always changing. But I think really like every other year they need to be changing stuff. Even if we look at this, like this isn't a terrible outfit. Like who I'm personally following on Instagram, they're not wearing this. I don't think, this just looks that little bit dated. And I think a lot of the images do just look that little bit dated now. I'm not sure when these were shot. It'd be a bit awkward if they were shot yesterday. I mean, some work. This photo, for example, it works. This person's a little bit older. This is very timeless. But this, I just think looks a bit cheap now. I've been looking online for kind of like similar things. and I just, it's really hard, I think. I really like the idea that people kind of find like 3 different words that suit their style. That I really like, because it can be really random words. So for example, if I wanted to always look polished, modern and fun, I could just ensure that every outfit had like an aspect of that, and I really like that idea. For someone, it'll be a great building block for their style journey, but for me, as someone that kind of knows their body anyway, yeah, it wasn't for me. But that's not to take away from how incredible Fiona is and the colour analysis. Colour analysis, I cannot tell you how valuable I think that is. I just think colour analysis is incredible. This, right for someone, this might be right for you. Definitely do consider it, but go with the colour analysis and then kind of see how you feel, I would say. But that's the end of this video. I hope it was somewhat insightful. Do let me know what video you'd like to see from me next. I probably am going to try and do some more style videos. I am buying a wardrobe soon, because we have a wardrobe, but I don't really have a wardrobe. At the moment I'm using like rails, which I do like, but it's just not really working anymore. I need to really update my wardrobe with just a few key bits now that I've had my style analysis and my colour analysis. Yeah, we're going into autumn, which I'm kind of looking forward to be honest. It is such an autumny day today, but I do think we have got like another week or so of sun coming up. But oh, I'm just really looking forward to getting out my autumn wardrobe, so maybe that's something I will feature as well. Do let me know if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Leave me a comment as well. Let me know if you've tried this. Have you tried any other style like sessions, even online? Do let me know, because I would be very interested in checking them out, to be honest. And I will see you next Thursday. Bye.